The Redmi Note 7 Pro was one hell of a device, and today I have its successor, the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Now, this device has not been launched in many places, so we had to order directly from China, and although it took a lot of time and efforts for this unit to reach us, it was worth it, I guess. So if you're here for the first time, do subscribe to our channel, and if you're already a subscriber, we love you guys. So let's get started with the review, but first let's get done with the unboxing. So, design first, and it would be absolutely true to say that this is by far the best design Xiaomi has ever made in its Redmi Note series. I mean, just look at it, it speaks for itself. This is truly a break from Xiaomi's boxy designs on smartphones, and I'm loving it. I have this shimmering white color which glows depending upon the angle you tilt it in, and it has that good amount of heft and feels very comfortable on the hands. It is a big phone though, and it's thicker than the Redmi Note 7 Pro as well. It's a glass design with frames made out of metal. The back and front both are protected by Gorilla Glass 5, which is a welcome addition. Although I admit that it's slippery, I used it with the clear case on, which helps a lot. All the buttons are on the right with the SIM tray on the left, and below a Type-C port, a headphone jack and the speakers. The SIM tray has been sealed with rubber stuff that may protect against some accidental spills. That is a good feature to have and something I think all phones should implement. Okay, as much as I love the design, both the looks and feel of it, I would point out that the fingerprint sensor is at a very awkward position. Okay, it's not as awkward as what Samsung did with its former flagship, but it's right below the camera array, and I have mistaken the lens for the sensor many times, but with time you get used to it. At least I did. So one thing that I loved about the Redmi Note 8 Pro is the design. It's definitely a good upgrade from its predecessor. Now let's talk about the display, which by the way is not AMOLED. I don't know about you guys, but I had been expecting an AMOLED display as an upgrade from the Note 7 Pro. However, the display is one of the best looking IPS displays. It's lively, colorful and fairly bright. So I have to say that this one definitely has better display than the Note 7 Pro. It's a 6.3 inches display with 19.5:9 aspect ratio, and as you can see, the bezels are pretty minimal. You get a U-shaped notch up top, which I don't mind at all. There's a dark mode, but since it's an LCD screen, there won't be any battery saving going on like the AMOLED one. You also get gesture features in case you want a full screen experience. I like to go traditional with the buttons, but that's totally your choice. The display is bright even outdoors, so you are not going to face any problems on that part. So the overall display is very good. It was just me having more expectations. Now let's talk internals, and this time Xiaomi has opted for MediaTek's Helio G90T. It's a gamer-centric mid-tier chipset which is in fact better than Qualcomm's Snapdragon 730. It scores a whopping 276,000 in AnTuTu, beating all the mid-range chipsets from 2019 like Snapdragon 675, 710 and the 712. So although Redmi phones are used to having Snapdragon chipsets lately, but I don't mind the G90T actually. And many of you guys have asked us on our Instagram how's the gaming performance and does it heat up? So here's the answer. So I have been playing demanding games like PUBG and Asphalt, and the gaming performance was smooth. All of these games run smoothly in the highest of settings. I did a heating test of the phone and played games for around 2 hours and continuously measured the temperature while doing so. And I had expected the phone to heat to alarming levels, but it did not. Actually, the temperature did not go beyond 40 degrees even after 5 sessions of PUBG back-to-back, followed by 3 sessions of Asphalt 9. So the Redmi Note 8 Pro as of now is the best gaming performer for the price. Also, day-to-day usage has been great. I never felt any stuttering while doing my daily activities. It feels smooth as I expected it to be. Whether it be heavy multitasking or opening big apps, the phone handles it nicely. The variant I have comes with 6GB RAM and 64GB storage. You can also get it in 6GB RAM and 128GB storage and 8GB RAM and 128GB version. All these three versions come with DDR4X RAM and UFS 2.1 storage. Okay, now since this phone has only launched in China, I had to directly order it from there, so that means that this is the Chinese version. I used the K20 Pro before this. It ran on MIUI 10.3.3 and this one runs on MIUI 10.4.9. I even received an update right after a week of getting it, so that's nice to have. And because it runs on MIUI 10.4.9, it feels different, and when I say different, I mean it positively. First of all, you get this, all your specs listed out here like this, which not only looks good but is informative too for a general user. This version of the device has NFC, which the global variant usually misses out on. I downloaded the Poco launcher and used it since I'm not really a fan of the icons here. You get a lot of pre-installed Chinese apps which are well not of much use to me. Thankfully, you have the option to uninstall almost all of them. Now for the experience, it was very smooth, even for a heavy skin like MIUI. From transitions to app loading, everything is fast and buttery. Now about the ads, I don't know if Xiaomi sends in ads in China as well, but with the Chinese variant, I have not faced any such issue, and I am crossing my fingers, hoping that I will not get ads in the future as well. There's an ad filter feature which you can turn on if you want the ads not to show. Now let's talk cameras, and I feel that cameras are becoming more and more gimmicky with every iteration of all smartphone brands. I'm not trying to target anyone here, but 64 megapixels, is it even necessary? And there's a 2 megapixel depth sensor and this 2 megapixel macro lens, and they market their phone as quad camera beast or 64 megapixel AI quad cameras. I mean, there's a hell lot of marketing going on, and sadly we consumers fall for it. Anyways, let's talk about the camera specs on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. There's a primary 64 megapixel focal 1.8 Samsung GW1 lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor along with a 2 megapixel macro lens, as I previously mentioned. Alright, let's move on to our normal daylight samples. The images from the Note 8 Pro look good, although they suffer in terms of dynamic range at certain situations. The colors are lively, as you can see here, but what I found was flower images tend to lose details. However, human subjects have good skin tone to them, so that's nice to see. So I would categorize the images as okay for the price. Initially, I thought that there was going to be a lot of noticeable differences between the normal images and 64 megapixel images, but here are the samples. The 64 megapixel images are just a little bit sharper than the 16 megapixel ones, but other than that, nothing. The 2 megapixel depth sensor does a surprisingly decent job when it comes to portraits. They have better edge detection than the Note 7 Pro actually. The subject look good, and so does the background. You can even change the blur amount in portraits, which is a nice feature to have. You also get 2x digital zoom with this one, and the images are okay. Moving on to the wide-angle images, there's a slight color shift from the normal ones. It's a little bit brighter too as compared to the normal images, but the difference is not so overwhelming, so it's fine. Now, macro images from the 2 megapixel sensor is pure gimmick, like what I said with recent Xiaomi devices. It lets you go a little closer to the subject than the normal camera, but the quality is just bad. However, they seem just a little bit better than what we got on the Realme 5 Pro. Selfies from the 20 megapixel sensor is very good. You will surely get good amount of details and no beautification going on. However, there's a slight reddish tint going on in the images, which some might not like. So this reddish tint is something you might only find in the Chinese variant. The algorithm might change with the global variant or the Indian variant. Portrait selfies look good too. You can change the blur level in portraits like the REG cameras, and the blur looks good too. Since it's software doing things here, there's very less to complain. Video-wise, it's the standard you get here. The best stabilization you get in 1080p 30 fps, and in other higher resolutions, the videos are very shaky. You can record videos with 2x zoom option as well, and interestingly, videos can also be recorded via the macro lens. So is the Redmi Note 8 Pro 64 megapixel cameras any better than its predecessor, the Note 7 Pro? Sorry, but the answer is no. I got most of the daylight images to be better on the Note 7 Pro. The Note 7 Pro has better dynamic range and balance of exposure, and sometimes even better colors. Nighttime shots too are miserable on the Note 8 Pro. When put in comparison with the Note 7 Pro and Realme 5 Pro, the normal nighttime images on the Note 8 Pro look darker and void of details. With the night mode on, things improved a little bit, but again, it works better on the Note 7 Pro. In terms of selfies, maybe the Note 8 Pro does a slightly better job. The Note 7 Pro has a yellowish tone to them, and like I said earlier, the Note 8 Pro has a reddish tone, but apart from that, there are not too many noticeable changes in selfies among the two. So if you already have the Redmi Note 7 Pro, the Note 8 Pro is not going to be a very huge upgrade in terms of cameras, except for the wide-angle lens. Now this time, Xiaomi has upscaled a little bit in the battery department. There's a 4500 mAh battery on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which I think makes up for the MediaTek chipset being a bit less energy efficient. Once fully charged, the battery lasted me for a day on my usage. On the days that I gamed a lot, the battery endurance was a little bit less. I had to put it on charge in the evenings, but that's only when I gamed a lot. On normal usage, the battery pretty much lasts you for a day. But having used the Redmi Note 7 Pro and the Redmi Note 8 Pro side by side, I think the Redmi Note 7 Pro, despite having a smaller battery, gives you a slightly better battery life than the Note 8 Pro. This time, Xiaomi has finally included an 18-watt charger inside the box, and it charges from 0 to 100% in slightly over 2 hours. Talking about extras, you have the fingerprint sensor at the back, as I already mentioned, and though I feel like it's in an awkward position, it unlocks the device pretty fast. You have face unlock option too, which is fast enough, but I prefer to keep it off and use the fingerprint sensor. There's an IR blaster as well, so if you ever happen to lose your TV remote, this can serve the purpose for you. And this is something that almost all the smartphone companies are getting rid of, which is kind of sad because it does come in handy. And talking about getting rid of things, Xiaomi did not get rid of the LED notification light. Well, it only glows in one color like it always has with Xiaomi phones, but just the inclusion makes me feel happy for some reason. In terms of call quality and network reception, I have had no issues whatsoever. There's also 5 GHz Wi-Fi support, an aspect many phones neglect, so that's nice. Moving on to the speakers, the single firing bottom speaker is satisfactory. It is moderately loud and does not distort in high volumes. In conclusion, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is another great mid-ranger from Xiaomi. Although it is not much of an upgrade from the Note 7 Pro in terms of cameras, but with the Note 8 Pro, I see a lot of changes in the design aspect and I love it. Performance-wise too, it's a stellar phone. You get good battery life and the camera performance is well acceptable. And yes, you get a wide-angle lens in here too. So if you're thinking of getting a great all-rounder on a budget, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is a fantastic choice. So that is all for the review of the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro. Do let us know in the comments what do you think about the device. Till then, I'm Pratibha Adhikari and thank you for watching.